Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. So, in about a week, members of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, including the President of the United States, will be meeting in Vilnius, Lithuania. Now, remember, Lithuania was a Soviet republic. It was not just a member of the Warsaw Pact, much like Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary. It was a member of the Soviet Union, just like Latvia, Estonia, Belarus, and yes, Ukraine, the breadbasket of the Soviet Union. Now Lithuania is a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The North Atlantic Treaty Organization is directly supporting war efforts against the Russian Federation in Ukraine. That is a no-brainer. Intelligence assets, military assets are being used to assist the Ukrainians. There continues to be discussion about Ukraine joining NATO. Legally, Ukraine cannot join NATO. Now, this meeting that is going to occur in Vilnius, are they going to be discussing war plans? Will there be generals from the United States, from France, from Germany, from Poland, other member NATO states, other even non-NATO member states, be meeting in Vilnius? Could we see a surprise visit from Zelensky arrive in Vilnius, Lithuania? Will we see Ukrainian generals in Vilnius? If that is the case, do any of those sites in Vilnius become legitimate targets of the Russian Federation? Now look, the likelihood that we would see a missile strike on a target in Vilnius is incredibly remote, because obviously we know that that is going to take us, obviously, into someplace different. World War III, obviously. But again, to say this is purely a diplomatic meeting that is going to occur in Vilnius is nonsensical. My best guess, this is also going to be a military planning meeting. Now get your head around that for a second. Lithuania, a former Soviet republic, is now part of this group of nation states that are essentially at war with the Russian Federation. The Lithuanians have handed over a lot of equipment, quite possibly to their own detriment. How much? We're not even sure yet. It's a lot, though. A lot has been handed over via the Lithuanians to the Ukrainians. And we're seeing the Ukrainians posture themselves We're seeing the Ukrainians talk about an even greater offensive operation directed possibly towards Zaporizhia in the south in the run-up to this NATO meeting in Vilnius, Lithuania. What's even more interesting, if you talk to individuals here in the United States and you were to ask them about geography, about global politics, tell us about Lithuania. Where is Lithuania? I would wager that 95% of Americans have no clue where Lithuania is. They have no clue how close it is to the Russian Federation. They may know that it's a NATO member state. They may not know. They may not care. Most have no idea that it was a former republic in the Soviet Union. And I compare and contrast, and I talk about, what if the Soviets had won the Cold War? And then look at individual U.S. states, look at Canada, look at Mexico. What if some of those nation states had gone communist, had decided to join the Warsaw Pact? What would the United States do? I mean, we've seen what happened when the Soviets attempted to put ballistic missiles in Cuba. Nuclear weapons in Cuba, short-range ballistic missiles. There are nuclear weapons, NATO, United States, nuclear weapons in Turkey. Poland is now asking for nuclear weapons be stationed in Poland. And Poland is going through probably the largest military buildup of all NATO member states. You think the Ukrainians are in a military buildup out of necessity? Well, I can tell you, the Polish armed forces are rapidly expanding as well. And it'll be interesting to see where that end game takes us. But again, it's very interesting to watch this meeting take place. It's going to be interesting to watch the repercussions of this meeting. It's going to be interesting to see what the Ukrainians do in the lead up to this meeting, and it'll be interesting to see the Russian response while this meeting is taking place. Was it reasonable for NATO to have this meeting in Vilnius? How far is that from Moscow? "790 kilometers. It's a good clip. But it's not like if they were to have had a meeting in one of the more traditional NATO states, such as Germany, such as the United Kingdom. I think there were many other options that NATO could have set this meeting up in terms of locales. Very antagonistic meeting place to have this meeting in a former Soviet republic that is going to also entail war planning against Moscow. I hope this is bringing a little more understanding, a little more awareness, especially in terms of how the Russians perceive this. And this map is interesting. I had never noticed this before. If you look up, if you look up in this area near Finland, the temporarily occupied territory of Karelia, occupied in 1940 in result of the Winter War, reoccupied in 1945. Interesting. We go down here. Occupied Estonia territories, occupied in 1939 in a result of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Okay. The Seist Boot, occupied 1939 in result of the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. And then finally, occupied Latvia territories. So that's an interesting side note to see what this specific deep state site is trying to say. What does that even mean? Now, a lot of these internet sites, and I'm not going to start naming any sites, and it may not be this specific site that I'm using right now, but many of these sites are heavily sponsored by Open Societies Foundation, and you know who operates that. There was one site that I've used quite a bit that receives quite a bit of money from Open Societies. It's a Georgian think tank. If you read where they're getting money that's supporting that site, it's a good site. It gives good information. But they're getting money from Open Societies. Now, I'm not saying this site is getting that from Open Societies. It may not be. But it's interesting that this site has specified these areas as if, what are they going to do? Are they going to invade Russia and retake these areas? It's crazy. Anyway, wanted to have that discussion. More to come. Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.